In today's episode, I'll be sharing what I've learned about adapting my classes for my teens class. As we all know, every student learns differently, and every student will have different strengths and weaknesses. I am currently taking a class that teaches me how to tailor a class to the needs of my teen learners. The first thing in my class that I'm learning is to use a needs analysis. It's basically a way to find out what your students need based on various things. So the type of needs analysis that I did, it's a two-part thing for the needs analysis. The first part, I'll do a survey with the students, and then the second part, I will break down their strengths and weaknesses based on different aspects of English usage, like writing, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, speaking, reading, listening. So for the survey, I had a series of questions on paper for the students to answer. This helps to give an insight and helps to tailor the class to be more engaging for them specifically. So here are the questions that I asked my students on the needs analysis survey. The first one is, what activities do you like the most in class? So in this specific class, I had a variety of activities for them. So I wrote down the list of things that we normally did. So we either had group discussions, worked in pairs, took turns reading, or I had them read on their own. We might have had some kind of game activities, or writing sentences with the target vocabulary. So when we learn new vocabulary, I'll have them write specific sentences. So that was the first question. The second question is basically the opposite of the first one, and they'll just say which one they didn't like at all, and that kind of gives me an idea of what they like and what they don't like. The third question, what do you feel most comfortable doing in English? So it can range from anything. So it can be the basic things like writing, reading, speaking, listening, grammar, pronunciation. So it can range a lot of things. Some of them wrote they don't feel comfortable taking a test. And then, or what they feel most comfortable. So the first one is what do they feel most comfortable with, and the second part is what do you feel least comfortable with. So some people might, like if they're really good at speaking, they'll say I feel most comfortable speaking, and then some people are not, so they might write something else. So that kind of gives me a gauge on what they feel subjectively is their comfort levels on different things. And then the next one, which do you think helps you learn the best? So working with doing something and then working and discussing with a partner. So it was like either reading, listening, watching a video about something, and then discussing with a partner, or trying to figure it out on your own and then asking the teacher for help when I'm stuck. So most people, they prefer to watch a video and discuss it with a partner, and then other ones was reading something and discussing with a partner. There was one student that picked trying to figure it out on my own and asking the teacher for help when I'm stuck. And it kind of makes sense for his personality. He's very reserved, introverted, and very quiet. He doesn't like to speak much. So it does make sense that he prefers to be on his own and figuring it out before asking for help. So, and then the next question, what would you like to do with English? So this is basically to find out the reason that they want to learn English. Some of them might not really have a reason because their parents kind of forced them to learn English, come to these English classes. And some of them actually genuinely do like English. So some students wanted to go abroad, so they might have wanted to go to the US, UK, visit different countries that speak English. So that's one of their motivations. Some wanted better grades in their school. Others wanted to watch English shows or movies. So that's kind of some motivation. And it can also help me think of some activities, or not like a kind of fun homework things, right? I might say, hey, watch this English movie or show on some channel, right? So in China, YouTube's blocked, so they have something called Bilibili. Maybe I can find something that's like an English show or movie and have them watch that episode and then write a review, write something about that. So it's more engaging, it's more fun for them. So that's it kind of gives me some more ideas on what to do. And then the last question is on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable do you feel using English? 10 being the most comfortable. So this is a subjective question. I wanted to see how they felt about their own English ability. It is not an objective measure as it is their own opinion. So some people might feel like they just don't feel very comfortable. So maybe it's like 3 out of 10, but realistically they can communicate, they can express their opinions, they can answer questions, they have communicative competency. So I just wanted to kind of see how they feel inside. I had one student that said they felt least comfortable taking English test on one of the previous questions. And the funny thing is that she has scored the highest on the last test out of the whole class. So she only missed one question. So it's really more of an internal perception of their English ability. And then, this is the last one. So how do you prefer to learn? Visually, auditory, or kinesthetically? So visually, they prefer to see something, read something, watch a movie, something visually. Auditory is like listening. So it might be listening to some kind of audio that tells them about something or reading something to them. So that's more auditory. Kinesthetically is to do something. You actually physically do something to learn about it. So if you want to learn how to ride a bike, you actually go and try to ride a bike rather than reading a book on how to ride a bike or watching someone ride a bike. So kinesthetically, so if you want to learn how to play basketball, you go and physically shoot a basketball. So that's kinesthetically. And it's like if you're going to visually try to learn playing basketball, you watch someone else play basketball. And if you're going to auditory, you're going to have someone listen about basketball things. So maybe they're like, oh, put your hand on the ball, you're going to have a guide hand, and you have the shot pocket. So that's auditory. So those are the three kind of learning, the preferences like for learning. Some people learn better than others in specific ways. So ideally, I want to tailor these activities, tailor activities or learning materials based on their preferred way of learning. Most learners in this specific class are visual learners. That's what they say they prefer to learn. So I actually got the last two questions were my own questions that I kind of added in. So they were originally like a template with 6 questions, and I added 2 more of the last 2 were my own in there. And the last one, I actually had a teacher in 9th grade. I was taking AP biology, and it was talking about my teacher was like saying you have to find out if you're a visual learner, an auditory learner, a kinesthetic learner. And at that time, I really couldn't figure out exactly what kind of learner I was. I felt like all 3 was very important, but I will say I now use auditory learning for convenience because it's quick, it's easy, and it requires less energy to do it. Because if you read something visually, it requires a lot of intensity. You have to actually be actively reading, but you learn. For me, I feel like I learn and absorb better for that. Kinesthetically, doing something, it's also very helpful. So if I write stuff down, that can be very effective, which is why I have a lot of my students write things down. So that's the first part of the needs analysis. The second part of the needs analysis broke down each student's strengths and weaknesses based on each English category. So we have writing, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, speaking, reading, listening. In each of the categories, I would specifically write details on their ability of what they can or cannot do. So what I would not write. So I wouldn't write Jack's weak at writing or Jack's weak at grammar. I had to write specifics. So Jack frequently runs into trouble with the present perfect tense. He will mix up have and has. So instead of saying I have a basketball, he writes I has a basketball. So that's one of his weaknesses. So you write down specific weaknesses that each of the students have. And it did require a lot of work because I had to go through a lot of their writing material to check their writing, check their grammar, check their range of vocabulary. And also you have to pay attention to I had 10 students in this class. I had to pay attention to everyone's speaking ability, their pronunciation, their reading and listening. Reading wise, obviously in you have reading tests, and so reading comprehension, you can kind of base it off of how they score on the reading comprehension portions of the test. Listening, you can kind of see also on the test. However, communicative competency, seeing when you give like instructions, do they know what to do if you give those instructions? So for the writing part, the skills ranged very greatly. The class, almost all the students, this specific teenage classes, almost all the students are 13 years old. Some can write very fluidly and communicate their ideas, so their preferences, their opinions, answer the questions, the prompts that are on the writing portion of the test. Others, I had a lot of trouble understanding what they're trying to write because either their vocabulary was very limited or their grammar was extremely poor, or a combination of both. So for grammar, most of them made similar mistakes. They frequently forgot or misused definite and indefinite articles such as the, and, So they might say, I like panda picture more, instead of correctly saying, I like the panda picture more. So they left out the word the in a lot of their sentences. So that's some of the things that they have troubles with. There's a lot more. And then vocabulary usage is more based on what was the vocabulary that we learned in this unit, and then are they able to use it in their test, right? Pronunciation, do they have good pronunciation? Speaking wise, how comfortable do they feel speaking? So this is more in class when I have them read or answer questions. And then reading and listening, as I mentioned before, more about their reading comprehension, and then their listening ability. Do they understand instructions? Can they communicate effectively? So that is the needs analysis, the two parts that I used for my teens class. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoy this content. See you next time.